Welcome to the hard skills, where we discuss how to develop the nuanced hard skills, meaning the most challenging soft skills needed to make a real impact through your leadership. I'm your host, Dr. Mira Brancu. If you are a high-achieving, goal-oriented, socially conscious person who has found themselves spinning in some weird, toxic waters at work, or simply wondering how to avoid getting sucked up into it, this might be the episode for you. I predominantly work with women in these situations because they're often excluded from the informal structures that reveal the power dynamics and rules below the surface that could help them. But this is for anyone who's also found themselves in that situation. Now, we had some weird reconfiguration, last minute emergency situations. I had to move some people around. We could have done a rerun. We had some complications. I figured, why not just take this opportunity to just take a pause and offer you a different type of episode than my usuals. Now, today is just me, myself, and I. I'm going to introduce myself. And well, I'm not going to just ask myself questions and answer myself, but I will answer some very common questions that I get from my clients routinely. I'm a leadership consulting and coaching psychologist and the founder of Towerscope Leadership Academy. I'm an associate professor, a Psychology Today columnist, and author of The Millennials Guide to Workplace Politics. And I've had my own leadership career before transitioning to helping teams and high-achieving women navigate their leadership complexities. And I personally love podcasts where the host pulls out a bag of questions from their audience, or they have call-ins with questions they respond to. So I figured that's what I can do today for you. I routinely get certain questions that so often they come up that I figured, why not take a few of them that came up recently from my clients, from my Towerscope Leadership Academy members, and record something for folks that can go back to often that I can offer. I can offer it to my clients to go back to. I can offer it to you to go back to. And it'll serve as a supplementary resource that would be evergreen. So that's what I was thinking. So let's get right into it. We are going to talk about these recent questions that I got from my clients. When and how to say no. This is a big one. And there's a lot of nuance behind this. It sounds pretty simple. It's not simple. That's why we're talking about it on the hard skills. 2, managing up. There are certain situations and contexts where managing it up makes sense. There's some situations where it doesn't make sense, or there's nuance for how to do it, when to do it, what's the timing. We'll get into a little bit of that. 3, adjusting work relationships. When you move into a different kind of role, especially a leadership role after you've been peers with someone, how do you navigate that? It's really challenging. It's really complicated. And then finally, how do you future-proof your career? Meaning being ready for that next step, for that future opportunity when you're still actively doing a great job and excited to be where you are, but you're wanting to be ready for that next opportunity. So be ready, take notes, reflect deeply, and identify at least one small step to further develop your hard skills muscle. So let's get into it. Let's start with the saying no question. We're going to call her Tanya because, of course, I'm going to anonymize and aggregate across clients to protect their identity. But Tanya says, Mira, I find myself continuing to take on more and more, agreeing to take on something when I'm not sure it's the right thing, and saying yes to too many things. From the outside, it looks like I'm really successful, but I feel like I'm just spinning, exhausted, frustrated, undervalued. I've been in my current role for 3 years, working my butt off, showing I'm a team player, agreeing to take on new informal leadership roles like committee work, improving workflows, managing the needs of the team, all things to work towards a promotion or next step in my career. And now I feel stuck. I feel like I am teetering on burnout. I worry that I'm, I want to start saying no to some things, some extra work, making room for strategic opportunities, but I've taken on so much that if I take it on, I won't do a good job of it. And if I say no, I worry they think I'm no longer a team player ready for a promotion. What do I do? Does that sound familiar to you? Does it sound like something that you've experienced? I bet it does. It's super common for so many people. And, unfortunately, it's something that we find ourselves, especially for women. So this question is loaded with so much to unpack. Such a common experience for so many women I work with. And in fact, so much so that I'm actually writing a new book on this very topic, how to quit unhealthy work behaviors and spaces and experiences. So I'm also testing these ideas out with you right now, and I would love to hear your feedback to see what you think. So let's break this down. First, if it's one thing I can't stand, you probably already know this if you've been listening to me, it's surface level advice that offers you a random band-aid for a symptom instead of an appropriate precision medicine-like approach to address the actual root cause of the issue. Knowing what to let go of means knowing what's at the root cause of the problem, and then reframing the issue to feel more comfortable, more confident, more in control of what's driving the behaviors in the first place. So it sounds like Tanya feels like she has no control over how much she takes on. And like it's pretty overwhelming and frustrating. She wants to do something different, but she doesn't know how or where to start. Now, this is where one of my audits can help. I have a few audits all rooted in research-based psychological principles and cognitive behavioral therapy techniques. In this situation, the yes-no audit can help a lot. It sounds simple, yes-no audit. I'll just pause there. Like, if you have a better name for this, once you hear what it's about, I'd love to hear it. I'm not great with catchy phrases here. I'm just real straightforward with it. So what can Tanya do? And any of you who find yourself in this situation is, first of all, to take anywhere from 1 to 3 months to gather some information. Yes, it sounds like a long time, but trust me, it will save you a lifetime of aggravation, frustration, misery, and burnout if you take these 1 to 3 months to do this. And it's so simple. You can do this, okay? So in every situation, Tanya finds herself being invited or offered to take on something new, I want her to use a 2x2 grid, okay, to track both her response and the ultimate outcome. In each situation, what she would do is indicate whether she said yes or no. So yes and no will be like 2 rows in the 2x2. Did I say yes or did I say no? The columns would be happy or unhappy. So did I say yes or no to the opportunity? And then after a few days or even a month after the decision, I want her to indicate whether she was happy with her decision or unhappy with her decision. And here's the key, with a few notes about why she thought she was happy or unhappy with the decision. After she makes several yes or no decisions and takes several notes each and every time, I want her to look back on this data, this 2x2 grid with information, and see what she notices. Does she notice any trends? Okay, so let's take an example. Let's say after a while, Tanya noticed that she was unhappy with her decision every time she said yes to committee work where she was not the lead, where she was yet again supporting someone else in the lead position when she had done that many other times. And it was nothing new to her. This realization gives her clarity and the language to explain why she's making a decision in the future. Clarity for herself that it's a good decision, and language to help others better understand what she is looking for. And that gives her greater control over her decisions. So in this situation, for example, and moving forward into the future, I want her to then practice either saying no to any request that sounds similar to that one, that where she's tracked her trends, or responding with something that gathers more information or creates a negotiation process. Okay, so as she's gathering more information, she might respond with, in response to, will you do this? She might say, it depends. What would be my role in this? Now she's gathering more information about whether it actually could fit what she's looking for versus not. It depends. Can you tell me more about the time commitment? It depends. Can you tell me what my role is, what the time commitment is? Will I have any support or resources? Right? She's starting to gather the data that tells her what will lead to success versus not. And if it doesn't feel right, she could choose to enter a negotiation process, or she could decline the response with clarity about the reason, if she feels like she needs to offer a reason, right? So she could say, thank you for this. I appreciate you looking into it. I appreciate you sort of clarifying for me what it could look like. Unfortunately, right now, I can't take on any more committee roles like these, but if any come up where I could lead an effort in my areas of expertise with a little bit of extra support in this way, I would love to hear about those. Okay. So what I just described about what she could say are surface level tactics. There's an additional below the surface issue we have not yet discussed. Okay. What I just offered you are surface level tactics. We're going to get into the below the surface stuff next, because this is where it counts. Okay. Let's say through this process of tracking and observing her behaviors, we learn that the times when Tanya says yes and is unhappy about saying yes, it's almost always in situations where she feels guilty or a sense of obligation to others. Or maybe she's told herself things like, if I don't say yes, they will fire me. If I don't say yes, they will think I'm not a team player. If I don't say yes, I will lose out on a great opportunity. If I don't say yes, I will lose out on money. And what if this kind of offer doesn't come again? If I keep saying yes, people will see me as successful and I can get the recognition or promotion I want. Now, what is the problem with these? And what does that mean in terms of how she adjusts what she says and does and why? We're going to get to that after the ad break. Okay, I'm going to make you hold off for just a minute. We're reaching that ad break. You're listening to The Hard Skills with me, Dr. Mira Brancu, founder of Towerscope Leadership Academy. We are air on Tuesdays at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. If you would like to join me online and ask any questions as I'm going along, I can answer that in real time. Find us on LinkedIn or YouTube at talkradio.nyc, and we'll be right back in just a moment.
Are you a conscious co-creator? Are you on a quest to raise your vibration and your consciousness? I'm Sam Leibowitz, your conscious consultant, and on my show, The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, we will touch upon all these topics and more. Listen live at our new time on Thursdays at 12 noon Eastern Time. That's The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, Thursdays 12 noon on talkradio.nyc.
Are you a high-achieving, growth-oriented leader? Are you interested in developing your authentic leadership while creating a healthy, inclusive workplace? Hi, I'm Dr. Mira Brancu, host of The Hard Skills on talkradio.nyc at 5 p.m. Eastern on Tuesdays, where we discuss how leaders develop the hard skills needed to make a greater impact. We interview experts, have live coaching, and tackle these challenges. Listen to The Hard Skills on Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern on talkradio.nyc.
Are you a business owner? Do you want to be a business owner? Do you work with business owners? Hi, I'm Stephen Fry, your small and medium-sized business or SMB guy, and I'm the host of the new show, Always Friday. While I love to have fun on my show, we take those Friday feelings of freedom and clarity to discuss popular topics on the minds of SMBs today. Please join me and my various special guests on Friday at 11 a.m. on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC. Uplift, educate, empower.
Welcome back to The Hard Skills with me, Dr. Mira Brancu. Now, we have just been talking about a scenario where someone is trying to figure out the best way to say no to a situation. I gave you some surface level tactics to be thinking about, but now we're talking about below the surface stuff that's behind the scenes. Now, the surface level tactics are important still. And part of that was a yes-no audit. And what I want to show you here is if you're watching this right now, I have created a yes-no audit with instructions. This is how you would do it, right? At the bottom, it has yes and no on the rows and happy versus unhappy in the columns. And you're asking yourself, what did you say yes to? Why did you feel that way? Or what did you say no to? Why did you feel that way, right? And this will help you track the information. If you would like this yes-no audit with all of the instructions for how to do it, then you can go to my website and you can find it. I will show you if you're watching this live. Or the recording, you go to resources. Actually, you go to gotowerscope.com, just in case. Gotowerscope.com is my website. You go to resources and you go to other free stuff. Okay. Then you go down to yes, no audit, and you can just enter your name and email and immediately be able to download this resource. Okay. So let's move forward with Tanya's situation. Okay. Let's say she's telling herself things like, if I don't say yes, they will fire me. If I don't say yes, they will think I'm not a team player. If I don't say yes, I'll lose out on a great opportunity. She's telling us herself, all of this stuff behind the scenes, which is making it very difficult for her to say no. Some of the things that I mentioned are about likability. Some of the things that I mentioned are about financial stability. Some of the things that I mentioned are about scarcity of opportunity. Now, you know me, I'm going to get on my soapbox here for just a second, okay, about these things. Likability, scarcity, financial stability are three of the many messages women have received over the course of their life that have been used to hold them back, used to make them feel small, make them feel like their success is only dependent on whether they behave in a way that is acceptable and deemed by society as okay for women to behave and act and look, right? So remember, it was only in the 70s when women got the right to get a credit card without a man signing for it, meaning women's lives have been controlled and regulated by other people for a very long time. And we're still trying to extract ourselves from that conditioning, extract ourselves from the belief that our love, our success, our financial security is contingent on another person's acceptance and control. Now, some of these messages also come from our personal additional experiences with adversity. Okay, so for example, I came to this country with my parents, and we were immigrants. We leaned heavily on nonprofit sponsorships, on family, on government subsidies like food stamps in the beginning to help us. And I saw my parents work really hard to move from surviving financially to feeling financially stable. Anyone in that kind of situation is likely to have a certain ingrained need for financial stability at all costs. And that relationship to money will drive their decision-making, will make it hard to say no, especially if it's connected to money. That's the below the surface stuff I'm talking about, okay? Lots to unpack there. So if, depending on whatever resonates for Tanya when I talk with her, we would want to explore that and then create what I call counteractive reframing comments and mantras. Counteractive reframing. Things that we tell ourselves to counteract the self-sabotaging internalized beliefs that hold us back. Okay, so the reframing might be, I'm not a bad person if I don't take this one thing on. Or I have a right to choose what I take on. Or I've given them more than enough. There are others who can do this well, and they deserve an opportunity also. Or I have a lot to give. I'm glad they appreciate me so much. Each person I work with that uses this counteractive reframing mantra idea creates something that makes the most sense to them for their situation. Okay, so you would create something that makes most sense to you once you can identify your personal self-sabotaging mantras. Now, as an important footnote here, I want to make it clear that those, I think I've made this clear, but I just want to make this really clear. Those self-sabotaging beliefs are not because Tanya has any personal fault that we're fixing. She is a highly capable, high-achieving person. That's who I work with. And no high-achieving person purposefully limits themselves. Okay, that stuff is coming from somewhere else. What we're doing here is unlearning the unhealthy messages she has picked up about her capabilities and practice letting those messages go, because those messages are not hers. They're just internalized. So when you put all of this together, Tanya might then be able to identify both the root cause of what leads her to get caught and trapped repeating the bad cycle, which includes what she's telling herself that leads to decisions she's not happy with. And with that data, along with practicing new reframing mantras inside, each time she's making a decision, she might be able to start stopping herself in time to tell herself, Tanya, remember, this is one of those situations where you always regret saying yes. You don't have to. They still appreciate you, which is why they keep coming back to you. That's her counteractive reframing mantra. And then on the outside, she can say, thanks so much for this opportunity. I love that you're always thinking about me. In this case, I'm trying to be better about saying no to more opportunities that repeat what I've already done, and saying yes to more new challenges that I haven't tried yet. I have a recommendation for someone who would love this opportunity. I definitely love to be considered for some new challenging roles when they come up, right? So she's using both the information she gathered from the yes-no audit, as well as the counteractive mantras she's telling herself so that it's okay for her to say no, because she's also challenging the self-sabotaging beliefs while she's trying to do something new and different. Now, I could have told you to say that whole thing as a Band-Aid fix, right? I could have easily said, just practice saying no more often, right? But that's not that easy, right? For most of us, it doesn't feel authentic to just say the words that someone says you're supposed to say in the moment, because we don't know what's driving our behaviors. So it's not going to stick, right? Okay, I can say a whole lot more on this topic, but you'll need to wait for the book or engage me in coaching for that. Or in the meantime, I also happen to have the counteractive reframing mantras as another handout that you can download. So I'm going to share my screen here for a second for those of you who are watching live or the recording. Here's the counteractive reframing mantras. You'll see that I have instructions here, and you'll see an example of how it's done. Okay. And in order to download that, you again would go to my website, and that is gotowerscope.com, right? You would go again to the resources, other free stuff, and then you'll see right there, counteractive reframing mantras. It tells you a little bit about it, what you're going to see when you download it, and then you just enter your name and email, submit, and then you'll get the downloadable. Okay. All right. So we have the yes, no audit and the counteractive reframing mantras to be able to think about in that situation. There's a whole lot more that goes into this, obviously. So if you get stuck, definitely reach out to me and we can explore ways that coaching might be useful to you. Okay. All right. Phew. Let's go on to the next question. The next question is about managing up. Okay. We'll call her Shauna. Okay. Since we're keeping things real anonymous here. Shauna asks, how do I manage up effectively? There are decisions made that affect our staff, that affect the resources that we have. I need to advocate for people so we can do better work. And there are times when I get to meet with higher level leaders and I want them to think about me, not just as someone in my current role. I also want them to see me in a future promotional role, a high potential in a future promotional role. And so there's a lot of reasons why I'm interested in managing up, right? To advocate for resources, to advocate for my staff's needs, and to be seen as a leader with greater promotional potential as well. Now, this last part for me is most challenging because I'm invited by higher level leaders that are above my boss in the organization, that's called a skip level, to share my thoughts, but my boss doesn't want me to be there. He says things like, you don't need to be in that meeting, or why did you go to that meeting? So how do I handle all of that? Great question. This is really, some parts of this are more simple than others. Some parts are much more nuanced. So we're going to talk about that after the ad break. We're reaching an ad break right now. You're listening to The Hard Skills with me, Dr. Mira Brancu, founder of Towerscope Leadership Academy. We air on Tuesdays at 5 p.m. Eastern. If you'd like to join us online and ask some questions, we're right here. I'm right here. I can answer in real time. Find me on LinkedIn or YouTube at talkradio.com, talkradio.nyc, sorry. And we'll be right back in just a moment.
Hey everybody, it's Tommy D, the nonprofit sector connector, coming at you from my attic. Each week here on talkradio.nyc, I host the program Philanthropy in Focus. Nonprofits impact us each and every day, and it's my focus to help them amplify their message and tell their story. Listen each week at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time until 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on talkradio.nyc.
Were you an essential worker during the pandemic? If you needed to learn stages of epilepsy, did you depend on advocates? Did you use new innovations to cope with mental and neurological issues? Maintaining high quality of life and keeping good mental health are what we all strive for. I'm Frank R. Harrison, host of Frank About Health, and each week top healthcare influencers, professionals, and innovators answer these questions and more. Stay tuned on Thursdays at 5 p.m. on talkradio.nyc, and I will continue to be frank about health with all of you.
Are you a business owner? Do you want to be a business owner? Do you work with business owners? Hi, I'm Stephen Fry, your small and medium-sized business or SMB guy, and I'm the host of the new show, Always Friday. While I love to have fun on my show, we take those Friday feelings of freedom and clarity to discuss popular topics on the minds of SMBs today. Please join me and my various special guests on Friday at 11 a.m. on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Hello, hello. Welcome back to the Hard Skills with me, Dr. Mira Brancu. All right. So we're talking now about managing up. And the question comes from Shauna. And she's seeking a couple of things. One is some, more basic managing up skills around advocating for resources. And some are more about being seen and visible by much higher leaders to be able to sort of present herself as promotional material for future roles. And then some is managing when there's an issue with your boss above you who may not like that. So let's talk about some basic managing up needs, and then we'll go into some very nuanced ones. Okay. First, I'll just say that you can find a lot more in-depth discussion about this in my Millennials Guide to Workplace Politics book. I wrote a lot about this, and as well as in a podcast episode on managing up that I did with Dr. Shari Dade, host of Audacity to Fail podcast. And I'm going to just share those resources right now so that you can see it quickly. The Audacity to Fail, Misstepping into Success is the name of the podcast. And you would just search up my name. It's under the Power of Managing Up. So it should be easy to find. Millennials Guide to Workplace Politics is easily found on Amazon. Okay. All right. So let's start with the basics. My first experience personally with the concept of managing up was in my last year of training as a psychologist. I was working in a hospital setting, and one of the hospital service leaders was gushing, this amazing research coordinator. She's so amazing, and how rare it was to find someone like her. And just my curiosity piqued. So I was like, what does she do that's so amazing and unique, And he said, she doesn't just come to me with problems. She comes to me with problems and potential solutions. She says, here's the bad news, but here are 3 potential solutions that might address the problem. Which way do you want to go? Wow. That, just learning that really changed how I viewed managing up. I immediately got it. Within a span of a few minutes, by saying that to him and approaching him in that way, she provided him with an assessment of a problem he may not have known about. She demonstrated competency in quick problem solving by offering several smart solutions. She removed a potential burden or stressor. She demonstrated an ability to anticipate what he would be most concerned with. She made sure he'd still be the person to make the final decision, which path to take. She created a mutually beneficial situation for him and for her, right? and it increased his trust in her. Now, she didn't approach it as, you have a problem, you have an issue, and I want to fix it. It wasn't quite like that. It was looking out for him. It was joining. And this is the critical piece about managing up that I want you to think about. Okay. It's proactive, problem solving. She shows she cares about his success. And it shows her capability in anticipating potential risks. Since then, I have had my own assistants, many assistants, and I can tell you now that it is hard to find someone who doesn't just come to you with complaints and who also doesn't sit back and wait for you to tell them what to do. Now, you might be wondering, is this really managing up? Isn't that like just demonstrating like good work ethic, initiative, critical thinking? Yes, those are important skills. We all need to have those skills, right, to stand out in the workplace. But here's the difference. When it comes to managing up, it's the ability to have empathy for the leader's position and consider what they might be experiencing or worried about, and how you can help in a way that also helps you and the team be more successful in the long run. There are employees who have the same work ethic, initiative, critical thinking, problem-solving skills, but they use these skills to tell the leader what they're doing wrong, which creates an adversarial relationship, right? They assume they know the right path to take, and they say, you should do this. They're unwilling to consider multiple alternatives that the leader may have already considered. They question and criticize their boss in public, maybe derailing meetings that affect the other team members. Sometimes they're manipulating leaders to make decisions that are self-serving, but not serving the team goals. They might hide the truth to spare the leader. They might use it to suck up. They might externalize blame, right? That's not managing up. That's not managing up. We're talking about joining up. This is where we left off, and what we came to when I was talking with Shari Dade on her Audacity to Fail podcast, is that maybe we were like, maybe we shouldn't be calling it managing up. Maybe we should be calling it joining up, right? Developing healthy, trusting, helping relationships at work is a two-way street. Even when there's a power differential, leaders are human too. I've been one. I'm still human. They have their own personal baggage, things that stress them out, bad days, just like everyone else. They probably had your job once. They're human. And they're still human in their leadership role. I didn't know everything, right? So a little empathy and trust building goes a really, really long way. Everyone benefits when we work towards creating mutual helping relationships where the primary question is, how can I help make this better? How can I catch you? Instead of, how can I catch you in the act of making a mistake and shame you for it, right? Like nobody likes that. Okay, so here's how you can get started, okay? Number one, empathize. Get to know your boss's pain points or your leader's pain points. What seems to stress them out? What do they talk about often that seems important to them? Is it a new boss? Can you help orient them? Does the boss seem to over deliberate on certain decisions? How can you help them not get so overwhelmed with those decisions, right? Recognize that being a leader is really hard right now, harder than ever. If you're in a leadership role looking to your leaders above you or above that, you know it gets lonelier and lonelier the higher level you go. You have very few people you could trust or rely on. People are constantly questioning and criticizing you, or they're sucking up and telling you lies to get closer to you, right? You can be the one person offering support and being an ally, and in a way that also supports other people and yourself, right? Okay, so number two, bring value. What information or perspective are you privy to that your leader might have a blind spot to? Can you share it in a way that's useful and received well? Can you help them avoid an embarrassing moment? Like, for example, something simple would be like, hey, that slide is written in a way that it might send kind of the wrong message about favoritism. Can I suggest maybe adjusting it this way? Okay. Remember, if you give feedback, label the person, the pattern, not the person, right? So it might be something like, I've been thinking about this policy that we have, and I'm really stuck on something. If we have this policy in this way, it might set precedent, and it could lead to, only funding the employees who already have higher salaries. And I'm sure that's not what you meant, but I'm wondering if we could adjust it in some way, right? Another way to show value, give them a heads up. The heads up is huge. I loved when people just gave me a heads up, because leaders hate being blindsided, right? Anticipate what they might need to know. And if it's high stakes or could be in the news or high visibility, say, hey, I just wanted to give you a heads up. I know we're going to be doing this presentation. I know this one stakeholder is going to be attending, and there might be like a lot of media attention. Anything that I should know to prepare, anything that we should be thinking about. Here's what I was thinking. Let me know what you think, right? Okay. Managing up also does not mean agreeing or getting along with, and it doesn't mean manipulating. It just means creating a trusting relationship and finding ways to join with the problem solving. Okay. Now, let's say that you feel you've been doing all of this, but you sense your leader is reacting in a negative way. I want you to ask yourself some questions. Do they appear defensive? If so, am I pushing too hard? Did I get all the information, or are they trying to tell me I don't have all the information? Are they non-responsive because they're overwhelmed? Can I help with that? Is it a personality thing? Like, are they introverted or highly organized? And if so, maybe I need to show up in a more structured way or with an agenda instead of on the fly. Have I already expressed how much I see and appreciate what they've already done? Or did I just launch into it? Have I approached with curiosity and wanting to learn, or not? Have I actually asked if they want help or just started launching into it, right? Okay, so I've talked a lot about the managing up piece. There's a lot more in my book. You can look at that, okay? But let's go back to Shauna's more nuanced question now, okay? She wants to be able to do two things. One is be successful in her current role managing up. We talked about that piece, right? But the second piece is being able to be seen as capable and incredibly credible and visible as a potential higher level leader. And to not be undermined or questioned by her next in line boss, right? She says, I'm invited by higher level leaders that are above my boss in the organization to share my thoughts, but my boss doesn't want me to be there. He says things like, you don't need to be in that meeting. Why did you go to that? Okay. We're going to answer that question when we come back from the ad break. We're reaching an ad break, and you're listening to The Hard Skills with me, Dr. Mira Brancu, and we'll be right back in just a moment. Are you a high-achieving, growth-oriented leader? Are you interested in developing your authentic leadership while creating a healthy, inclusive workplace? Hi, I'm Dr. Mira Brancu, host of The Hard Skills on talkradio.nyc at 5 p.m. Eastern on Tuesdays, where we discuss how leaders develop the hard skills needed to make a greater impact. We interview experts, have live coaching, and tackle these challenges. Listen to The Hard Skills on Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern on talkradio.nyc.
Hey everybody, it's Tommy D, the nonprofit sector connector, coming at you from my attic. Each week here on talkradio.nyc, I host a program, Philanthropy in Focus. Nonprofits impact us each and every day, and it's my focus to help them amplify their message and tell their story. Listen each week at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time until 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on talkradio.nyc.
Are you a conscious co-creator? Are you on a quest to raise your vibration and your consciousness? I'm Sam Leibowitz, your conscious consultant, and on my show, The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, we will touch upon all these topics and more. Listen live at our new time on Thursdays at 12 noon Eastern Time. That's The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, Thursdays 12 noon on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Welcome back to the Hard Skills with me, Dr. Mira Brancu. We have just been talking about managing up, and we were moving into Shauna's second piece of her question, which is she's been invited by her, these higher level leaders to come to certain things because they see some value in what she has to bring. But her direct boss is sounding like he's not as comfortable with that. Now, we don't have all the information here, okay? While we can make a whole lot of assumptions, like whether he feels threatened by her presence, or the invitation versus simply trying to maintain the rules of the meeting, we don't have that information, right? That is something I would obviously talk with Shauna about to get more information, right? So I would first want to hear from her, if she's already tried to talk with her boss about it, right? I would want her to first talk with him about, hey, boss, your leader invited me to that, but it sounds like you feel like I shouldn't be there. Can you say more about your concerns so I can understand how to navigate this situation? So she's leaning in with curiosity, right? She's not making judgments, just asking. At the same time, though, I would also want her to talk with the leader who invited her in the first place, because they might not realize this is a situation that they've created. Hey, leader, does my boss know that you've invited me to this? Is it okay that I attend? Will this cause any confusion or cause my boss to feel undermined? So again, you're managing up because you're anticipating potential problems. You're helping them think through it, and you're helping them step into helping you address the problem, right? Those leaders need to understand there's power dynamics here, and not all leaders attend to those things, right? So your job is just to sort of bring it to the forefront and work with your leaders to make sure that the ones who are sending the message to her to invite are also sending a message to her boss that an invitation has been extended. So she isn't put in a weird situation between two people who have way more power than she does, and then two people who also have a power differential between them, right? Okay. Depending on the relationships between these three or more people, I might even help her develop a plan to get both of them in the same room discussing her role at these meetings with her there. That would be the ideal situation. Okay. You can find out more from my Millennials Guide to Workplace Politics book, or just reach out to me if you feel like you like more coaching around that, right? But let's move on to the third question. This comes from Margaret. She asks, how should I manage relationships at work where I've entered into a leadership role, but they have not? And we started out as friends, and I want to keep it friendly, but with boundaries. Okay, this is really challenging. Okay, It's challenging, though, only if you already had developed a very close relationship or friendship that went beyond the boundaries of the work setting. So let me just start by saying, in the ideal situation, in my ideal situation, you recognize that you always need to keep things professional with folks at work, because you never know how those relationships will change over time if you both stick around in the company. Okay. But for better or for worse, whatever, many people find lifelong friendships at work, and they start spending time outside of work. And when you do that, again, in an ideal world, you would try not to break down too many boundaries that would put either of you in a weird future situation. Sometimes it's hard to avoid when we spend so much time with folks at work and we develop such wonderful, strong connections. And so with all of that said, if you've already broken down many boundaries in order to develop a strong friendship outside of work, if that friendship truly is based on mutual respect and support, it should be able to handle tough conversations about needed changes to the friendship. So conversations like, hey, now that I'm going to be moving into this leadership role, can we talk about how things might change and how to handle that between us? I had a friend do that with me, and I thought that was very thoughtful of her. I'd like us to preserve our friendship, right? But I recognize there are things that would impact my ability to do a good job in my new role. Like, I can't play favoritism. I will always support and cheer you on if I've seen your work directly, but I can easily also, worry that you're going to want a position and I'm not going to be in a position to help you. And that might look bad for both of us. What can we do about that to protect my credibility and integrity as well as yours? Right? And then you might want to think about, like, how do we handle office parties? How will we handle decisions where you're not going to like it, but I have to keep the entire organization in mind, right? So, Margaret, the final thing to know about it is relationships do change when you change roles at work. It's something to anticipate. It's something to expect. You will find out how people handle it, and you might be disappointed sometimes. You might end up feeling betrayed and hurt sometimes, right? You will end up seeing who can handle it, who will be rooting for you, who will be proactively supporting you, and who might not be able to handle it. Remember that you cannot control someone else's feelings and what they choose to do about what's happened to you in your professional situation. The only thing you could do is stay consistent, stay thoughtful, try to sort of anticipate and have the conversation, right? Okay. The final question, I'm going to be real brief about this one. It's about future-proofing your career. Many women in my Towerscope Leadership Academy come not just to develop their leadership identity, their leadership lens, their leadership strengths, but also as part of their process to keep upskilling and developing their strong transferable skills. So they're already ahead of the game by being growth-oriented and curious about their next steps. I will just say that I wrote a lot about staying up to date and ready for future opportunities in a Psychology Today 7-part series. I'm going to put that in the show notes. I'm going to post the 7th part in the show notes. And that 7th part has the links to all the other 7 sections. I'm also going to recommend my colleague's book, Professional Careers by Design, okay, by Sharon Hull. I had her on episode 37, I think. Strategically Designing a Career That Matters is what that episode was about. And I'm going to add that to the show notes as well. But let's review some important tactics you can take, okay? Number 1, develop a board of directors that includes mentors. Many mentors, not just one, people who can give you feedback, tell you the truth, live up to your standards, root for you, connect you to people and opportunities. Could be influential people, past coworkers, peers. Number 2, volunteer. This is the most underrated activity that leads to future opportunities, experiences, networking, connections. Okay. Create a resume that can be used for lots of different purposes that you can pull from, including your volunteer work, including informal leadership roles. Okay. For example, did you coach people in your role? Informally even? Did you consult informally in your role? Did you get trained to do something? When you got trained, can you describe the activities and the audience and the organization and the outcomes? All of that helps. And then create and update your LinkedIn profile with all of that information to demonstrate your expertise. And then start writing about those ideas and sharing those ideas, right? Ultimately, you're growing visibility, your expertise. Let me stop there. I threw a lot of information at you, 4 different questions, super in depth. If you want to keep learning and growing with me, the stuff we talk about on this show is part of our research-based model that we teach in our Towerscope Leadership Academy, a private coaching and learning community for socially conscious, growth-oriented, high-achieving women leaders who work in disrupted industries looking to find their leadership path and make a greater impact. There is a tremendous opportunity that comes with the leadership role, but it can be accompanied by an unsettling mix of all kinds of workplace politics and societal expectations. This is what we talk about, right? Not being blindsided, addressing workplace politics, addressing problematic team dynamics, gaining more clarity and agency to become more effective in leading how you want to lead, and doing it through a community to connect you with like-minded people who can elevate and inspire and hold you accountable. So check us out at gotowerscope.com and click on Leadership Academy. Thank you today to talkradio.nyc for hosting. Share with us on LinkedIn at Mira Brancu or talkradio.nyc what you took away, and importantly, what's one small change you can implement this week so we can cheer you on. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and Twitch, and it turns into a podcast. So please like, share, offer reviews, and we will respond. Thank you again. I'm Dr. Mira Brancu, the host of The Hard Skills. Have a great rest of your day wherever you're tuning in from.